With the release of Group Iron Man mode on the horizon, many old school players have shown interest in finally giving RuneScape 3 an honest try. But jumping headfirst with no idea what to expect can be a bit overwhelming. Or maybe you're brand new to RuneScape and just looking for some guidance on where to get started. Well, here are 15 tips that will help make that transition or start to your RuneScape journey as easy as possible. First one is pretty basic, but I feel it needs to be said. So where do you play RuneScape? And is there a client like RuneLite you should be using? Well, if you've been playing old school and you're familiar with the Jagex launcher, you're just going to want to switch over with the big button here at the top and start playing. You'll notice there isn't an option to choose your game client. That's because there really isn't any other option here. We don't have anything like RuneLite or HTOS over here. The closest alternative is the Alt1 toolkit, which is closer to an add-on as it just runs alongside your main game client and overlays important information like XP trackers, clue solvers, daily reminders, and so on. This next one is very important, so listen close. Unlike old school, when playing any kind of alternative game mode like Iron Man, Hardcore, or soon-to-be Group Iron Man, the choice is actually made here during character creation and not on Tutorial Island. I cannot preface that enough. Please do not make the mistake of accidentally making a main account because there's no way to reverse that decision. While we're on the topic of character creation, before jumping in, you will be met with a choice. If you're at all experienced with old school, I highly recommend choosing the I have played very recently option. It will skip Tutorial Island, which, trust me, it's unchanged, you won't miss anything. But more importantly, it will skip the path system, Jagex's attempt at like a new player experience. But with it on, you'll just be met with these dotted lines everywhere telling you where to go and to do 100 different things all at once. In my opinion, it's better to just ignore it all and form your own path. Otherwise, if you're totally new to the game and really want to be guided around, then go ahead and choose I've never played before. You can always turn off the tutorials later in the settings. And just to help future-proof this video a bit, while we don't know exactly how it'll work, we do know there will be a group island of sorts, similar to old school, where you'll form your groups once Group Iron Man comes out. While I was editing this video together, they dropped the Group Iron Man trailer and revealed there will be an FAQ blog coming out the Wednesday after this video goes up. So if you're watching this in the future, I will have added a pinned comment if there's anything major you'll want to know. Alrighty, now that we're in, the first thing you're going to notice is how different the interface looks. That's because it is completely customizable. You can move, resize, add, or delete every single element of the UI to your liking. For example, here's my interface, which I modeled after old school's fixed mode to help with my own transition to RS3. If you guys want a full interface tutorial on my specific interface and all my settings, let me know in the comments and I'll make one. And don't forget, you could go into your graphics settings and adjust interface scaling, which is how I get everything bigger to fill the screen out a bit more. While we're on the interface, did you know you can keybind to literally anything in this game? For real. Food, items, spells, teleports, prayers, it can all be dragged down to your action bar and keybound to be accessible with the press of any button. If that scares you, don't worry, none of that is at all required, just a feature to keep in mind for the future once you sink your teeth in a bit more. By now, you'll probably have noticed we started off in Burthorpe instead of Lumbridge. This is now kind of the starter area with a bunch of skill tutors and NPCs to help guide you. If it's all a bit too overwhelming and unfamiliar for you, just go ahead and head south down to the Taverley docks and there'll be a boat waiting to take you straight to Lumbridge. But what are some goals you should aim for? Well, it still is RuneScape, so quests are going to be your main way of progressing. I highly recommend checking out the Iron Man strategy guide on the wiki, even if you are a main account. You don't need to follow it word for word, but just checking in with it every now and then, you'll be well on your way to a well-rounded account. On the other hand, if you're the type of player that prefers or even needs a step-by-step guide to follow, there is the Efficient Iron Man Pathway Guide, which, similar to the old school one, will break down which quests to do, skills to train, and items to get in the exact order needed to build your account and get it PVM ready. And don't forget, the game still has been releasing new skills this whole time. There have been 6 new skills added since 2007 that all bring their own suite of content to try out, so here's a quick breakdown of each. Summoning is a support skill that lets you summon familiars to fight or even skill alongside you. Dungeoneering uses all of your other skills and sends you to explore the depths of Gielinor and offers an extensive reward shop. Divination is a gathering skill in which you collect energy, used to craft a plethora of support items, and has a huge part in invention. To this day, RuneScape's only elite skill, which will have you disassembling spare items to augment your gear with all kinds of perks. Archaeology, my personal favorite, which involves the excavation of artifacts and filling collection log slots to unlock relic powers, which massively change the way you play the game. And finally, RuneScape's newest skill, Necromancy. A fourth combat style which is independent of the original combat triangle, with its own set of quests and even a skill tree. Now let's talk combat. EOC, or Evolution of Combat, was released nearly 12 years ago and has changed a lot since then, so let's run through the basics. This is your adrenaline bar, the main resource you will build up and spend throughout every single combat encounter. These are your abilities. To make it a little easier, I'll separate them into two categories. You have your basics, which build up adrenaline, and then you have thresholds, ultimates, and special attacks, which spend that adrenaline to do big damage. But honestly, don't stress too much about it because the wiki has you covered with an extensive list of ability bars that you should be using, even broken down by level and specific unlocks. If you're not personally a fan of binding every single key on your keyboard to an ability and playing games at 3000 APM, that's okay, I'm right there with you. Luckily, Revolution exists and allows you to build out a rotation of abilities that will fire off automatically. My personal recommendation is to set your revolution size to 5 or 6 so it only uses basic abilities. This is the perfect in-between that doesn't force you to input every single action, but gives you agency and full control over your most damaging abilities and what you spend your adrenaline on. We are almost done with combat, but I do want to touch on PvP since it is such an important part of old school. Sadly, or maybe even gladly depending on who you ask, PvP is very much dead and buried in this game. To the point that it's not even on by default in the wilderness. You actually have to opt into it by talking to an NPC here in Edgeville. Alright, those are the main tips I wanted to cover, so let's finish off with some rapid fire ones. While you're here in Burthorpe getting started, head just northeast to the agility course and do a couple laps until you reach 5 agility. This will unlock the surge ability, which will allow you to dash up to 10 tiles in the direction you're facing and get you around the map much quicker. You'll find that as you sink your teeth in, that skilling is generally a lot faster, and that most skills, even agility, are going to have at least one method that is completely AFK. Don't forget, the mobile client exists. While it's not as clean as optimized as old schools, it is still very useful when you want to make some XP gains away from home. Finally, and I've mentioned it several times throughout this video already, use the wiki. Both RuneScapes are blessed with incredible wiki teams that are unlike any other. Seriously, if you even try to use a wiki for another game, you're reminded just how lucky we are over here. And that's all I got for you guys. Just as a reminder, this video isn't meant to be taken as one game good, other game bad. I play both, and I genuinely think you are missing out if you don't at least try and give the other game a shot. Especially if you are already paying for one, since you get access to both games with one membership. So please keep it civil down in the comments and let me know if you think of anything I missed. Finally, don't forget to like and subscribe. I love you all. Bye-bye.